and not myself. He is my strength and my portion. The Bible is replete with instances of saints struggling with sunken spirits. Psalm 19:7 says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul." This is a clear admission that the soul of the saint sometimes needs to be revived. And if it needs to be revived, in a sense, it was dead. That's the way it felt. David says the same thing in Psalm 23:2-3. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. The soul of the man after God's own heart, 1 Samuel 13:14, needs to be restored. It was dying of thirst and ready to fall exhausted, but God led the soul to water and gave it life again. God has put these testimonies in the Bible so that we might use them to fight the unbelief of despondency. And we fight with the blast of faith in God's promises. God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. We preach that to ourselves, and we thrust it into Satan's face, and we believe it. Nothing in the world compares to Jesus. No amount of money, no family, no amount of fame or notoriety, no amount of health or comfort compares with Jesus. Your soul was made for him. Every desire you ever have is an echo of the longing for him.
Hi, I'm your host, Dan Kruger. Is faith just agreeing with truth or something deeper? In this episode of Light and Truth, John Piper opens John 6, verses 27-40 to reveal how true faith feeds on Christ, satisfying the deepest longings of the human heart. This message was originally delivered at Bethlehem Baptist Church on November 22nd, 2009.
Let me give some summary statements of this text, where we're going. I'm going to give you three, and then we'll walk through it together, because seeing the details of Jesus' words to make the point is way more interesting and way more authoritative than my summary statements. But it might help you figure out where I'm going if I just give you a summary of it. So here's my first way of saying it. There are two units in this passage, verses 30-36 and verses 37-40. That's the unit we're going to deal with. The first one, verses 30-36, describe God's gift of Jesus to these people and how they do not receive it but lose it. The second unit, verses 37-40, describe God's gift of the people to Jesus and how he receives them and they are kept forever. So the gift of Jesus to the world and the people in the first unit, the gift of a people to Jesus in the second unit. That's one way of describing what we're seeing here. Here's another way. Verses 30-36 describes the apparent failure of God sending the Son to give eternal life. It ends in verse 36 with a horrible failure to believe. However, verses 37 to 40 describe an invincible success of God to give eternal life. So that's another way to say it. First unit, apparent failure, unbelief. Second unit, triumphant, invincible work of God to save his own. Here's a third way to say it in summary. There are always two ways of looking at the world. One is to look at the world from the side of man and man's responsibility in response to what God commands or offers. The other is to look at the world from the side of God and God's sovereign achievement of what he intends to bring about. So, in verses 30 to 36, 37 to 40, we are looking at the world from God's side through the lens of his absolute sovereignty over the process of salvation. So there it is. That's the summary of the text. And now, far more interesting is to walk through it together. And it is absolutely crucial, and I've said this before, I'll say it many more times, that you see this for yourself. This is too precious to be based on any man's opinion. Way too precious. Your feet must be standing on "Thus saith the Lord," not "Thus saith John Piper." Is that clear? So if you don't have a Bible, listen super carefully to when I'm quoting, and if you do, fix your eyes on it a lot. Jesus is talking to the same crowd that followed him across the sea. If you're newer, we've been working our way through this chapter now. This is the 4th week. They followed him across the sea because he filled their stomachs. He says that in verse 26. They're not looking at him as precious. They're looking at him as useful. And he has more to say to them. He directs their attention away from the food that perishes, which they're so interested in, to verse 27, the bread that endures to eternal life. And then in verse 29, he said that the way to, quote, work for this eternal food is to believe. What can we do? What can we do to have the bread, the food, that will take us to eternal life? And his answer is, okay, I'll tell you what you should work, how you should work. Here's the way to work. Believe. Believe me. That's verse 29. Now the crowd says in verse 30, well, then what sign do you do that we may see and believe you? What work do you perform? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Now here's my take on why did they say this. I found this a very strange response in view of their having seen him turn 5 loaves into enough bread to feed 5,000. Why do they say, what sign do you do? Well, why did you say that? I mean, I can imagine Jesus getting, if he were like me anyway, and he's not, thank goodness, very frustrated with these people. Here's my take on why they said this after seeing that. Their bellies are not full anymore. And their minds run back to Moses and the manna, and he didn't do it just once. He did it every day for 40 years. So Jesus, what sign today do you do? It's a new day. We're hungry. That's my take. Now, to that, Jesus has a double denial and an amazing offer. Verse 32. Truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. So the first denial is Moses wasn't the key player there. My Father was. It was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father. Here's the second denial. The bread wasn't the point either. There's another kind of bread. It was about pointing somewhere. Do you remember Matthew 4 in the wilderness and the devil tempting Jesus? He quotes Deuteronomy about, come on, go ahead, do what happened, make bread. And he says, quoting Deuteronomy 8, man shall not live by bread alone. The point wasn't the bread. Every time it came down, it was about God. Every time it came down, it was about the bread that would one day come from heaven. It was about me. And so he says it here pretty plain, and not quite explicitly yet. That's coming. It wasn't Moses who gave you the bread, but my Father gives you the true bread. Right now is giving you the true bread from heaven. So the point wasn't that bread. The point wasn't that Moses. The point was my Father, and he's giving bread right now. Please, I've said this, I've showed you. Open your spiritual eyes and see. And here's the amazing offer. I said there were two denials and an amazing offer. Verse 32, my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. Now, don't miss this. We are talking here about God's offer. You see the word you? That's really important. These are really dead, recalcitrant, blind, stiff-necked, hard people. And he's saying, my Father is giving you. I just keep standing here and standing here and standing here for you, the elder brother. I'll just keep coming out on the porch. My Father gives you the bread from heaven. Now, most of them are not going to receive it. But Jesus said God is giving it. And that's why I call it an offer. This is viewing everything from the side of man, receiving an offer, being responsible to see it, receive it, eat it. Verse 33, he reinforces this offer amazingly. Look at the scope of verse 33. For the bread of God, so now he underlines what the bread is. It's bread of heaven. It's bread of God. The bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. That's very broad. He's talking to a little band of people who are tracking him down because he filled their stomachs. And now he's saying, the bread that God sent is the bread by which he gives life to the world. So this is the way I go into the world. This is the way I get on airplanes. This is the way I walk through my neighborhood. God offers Christ to the world freely. And so should we. Come, see, eat freely. Oh, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. Drink of the water of life without price. It's the way we should talk to the world, like Jesus says in verse 33. Now, their response to this is exactly like the woman at the well in chapter 4, verse 15. Here's what she said. Do you remember this? Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come draw anymore. She's totally missed it. I have living water. You drink the water that I have to give you, you live forever. She says, whoa, give me the water so that I don't have to come to the well anymore. Just like them. It's another day. Our bellies are empty. Oh, yes. But what is the words that they use? Verse 34. Sir, give us this bread always. That just means natural bread. They didn't get it. So Jesus says, now verse 35 is the most explicit statement about his identity with the bread so far in the book. Jesus said to them, this is verse 35, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. It's very hard for me to exaggerate the importance of this verse to me personally over the last 18 years or so. Especially since I wrote Future Drifts. I struggled my way through some pretty significant biblical things to try to understand life, understand God, understand salvation.